Hello. Today we are going to be working inside of Zoho Meeting. So we are going to be scheduling a webinar. So Zoho Meeting is a great tool for both meetings and webinars. It does work similarly to Zoom. You can use it for your one-on-one meetings. We love to use it for webinars here. It has a lot of great features for webinars, which we'll get into in the next lesson exactly what different features you can use during the webinar. But for right now, we're going to talk about actually scheduling a webinar. So from the home screen, we can just click schedule here, or we can go to webinars here. So if we had anything scheduled, we would have those all listed out here. So we are going to click schedule and it'll be a live webinar or we have on demand. I'm not sure if you guys ever experienced this, but you can pre-record a webinar basically and have someone like fill out a form. So it's lead generation and then they get sent the link to the live webinar. They're told that it's live, but it's pre-recorded. So you'll get a link saying like the webinar starts in 5 minutes, and then basically they're just watching your recording. So that's what the on-demand webinar would be. The live webinar is actually like we do them. For example, on Wednesdays, I do a business requirement webinar, and on Thursdays, I do a training webinar. So those are actual live webinars. I'm going to be getting on at 1 o'clock every Wednesday, 1 o'clock every Thursday, and conducting the webinar. First, we're going to give it a title, and you can give it a description if you want. So what it's going to look like is when someone goes to schedule this webinar, it's just like a little blurb that is under the title. What I typically put here is a little like please register within 24 hours because I like to know if anyone's coming to the webinar. And that way, if no one is registered 24 hours in advance, I know that I can schedule something for that time the next day. And again, we have the webinar type. We just talked about that. So we have live. So it's real time or on demand. It is a pre-recorded session. And then here we're going to choose the date and the duration. So let's say we want this webinar to be on May 13th. And we want the time to be 11 a.m. Now we can click recurring webinars, so it can be daily, weekly, monthly, or custom. So let's say we want it every week on Monday. You can choose up to 50. So 50 is the maximum amount of recurring webinars that you can create. So we can create 50 instances. And then after that, we would have to create a new webinar with 50 more instances. So just keep that in mind. And then if it is recurring, do you want the participants to register and attend each event individually or register once and attend any event? So for example, my webinars, like I said, I want to know in advance if anyone is coming or not. So I have them register and attend each event individually. So you would have to register every single week for my training webinar if you wanted to come to it so that I would be aware that how many people are going to be there. If you want to do register once and then they can just pop in whenever they want, then you can do that as well. And then we'll go to next. And so now it's going to take us to co-organizers. So basically we can add a co-organizer here. So if I added someone, then they would be able to come in, edit the event, approve attendees if we have an approval process on that. So that's what a co-organizer would be. They would also be able to co-host the webinar with me. And then we have registration. So we can have with or without registration. So without means that they would just be able to pop into the webinar if they wanted to. With registration means that we want to collect their information for them to join. Typically, you're going to want with registration, at least for lead generation. You don't want to create content for free, right? So at least get their name and their email address, maybe even their phone number with the registration if you're giving them content. And then we have automatic or manual for the approval process. So this is what I was talking about. If you want someone to register, so maybe you have like a closed webinar, maybe you're charging for it. So if we're charging for the webinar, we don't want people just popping in. We don't want it automatically approving. In that case, we would choose manual approval because we want to be able to cross check, hey, did this person actually purchase the webinar before we approve for them to come be a part of it, right? And then you have some advanced settings down here. So basically, you can restrict things. So you can block certain domains. You can allow registration with only an authorized domain. So let's say that you only wanted people in your organization to be able to join this webinar. So we're going to restrict the domain to only amazing business results. So, because it's only for our company. So something like that. You can do it for different countries, only verified Zoho users. So there's a lot of things down there that you can play with. Next, we're going to go to engagement. So we can pre-add session files and polls for the webinar. So the session files would basically be like, you can go to work drive here. So let's say I wanted like a presentation or a handout or something like that I wanted people to have access to, then I would attach that to the webinar. And then we can also add a poll. So you can add a poll here. And there are different types of polls. So you can do single choice, multiple choice, star rating. So like you could say, how was this webinar? And then after that, we have our email reminders. So first we have our reply to address. So that means that if anyone replies to anything, it'll come right to me. We have a confirmation email going out for registration, and you can view it by clicking the eyeball here and see what it looks like. And then you can also edit. If you click there, you would be able to edit the template. We have reminders. So if you want to send out some reminders saying, hey, the webinar is about to start so they don't miss it. And then we have post-webinar follow-up. So either a thank you email or a follow-up email if they did not come. And then from there, we have some preferences here. So if you want them to be able to use the Q&A option to send questions during the webinar, but you can disable that if you want. You can have anonymous questions, so that way it's not saying who's asking the question. And then you can have option to record the video and automatically start the recording when the session starts. You can display the attendee list to all. Typically, you don't want to do that, but if you do, then you can do that. You have emoji reactions and post-webinar redirection. So the redirection is going to take them to a link. So the webinar ends, everyone leaves, and then it's going to immediately redirect them to your website or wherever you want them to go. And then from there, we have our promote. So here we have our registration link, and then we have the invite. So this link where we're going to register. So this is where people would be taken to. So marketing course, that's the title of it. This is the description that I told you about. And then since it's recurring, they can choose whatever instance of the webinar they want and be able to register for that one. And then it tells when they can register. And then we have our information over here. Okay, so let's register for that. And now it's pending for approval. I'll show you what that looks like. So then once we're registered, it'll bring us to this page. And if we go down here, you'll see your different registrations. And if you click details, you'll see who's able to come to the webinar, and you can deny them. And you can also resend invitations from here. And you also have your polls. All of the information that we put in about the webinar is going to be here. So if you needed to change like your preferences or anything like that, you can do that. Okay, and in the next lesson, we're going to be talking about the different options we have while we're actually on the webinar. But that basically sums it up for setting up your webinar and getting started. So I'll see you over there.